So, I figured I'd record myself designing a thing to see if people would like to watch that. So I'm going to open up this thing to show what I'm going to be designing. It's this but better, which is already another thing but better. What this is it's like a dual disc, like from Yu-Gi-Oh. You know those things that let you play Yu-Gi-Oh, but on your arm? Because the toys are super freaking expensive and aren't even compatible with modern rules. So, I thought I'd make a version that's cheaper and also compatible with modern rules, and it should be two-player, or the one device should be two-player, so that you don't have to hope that the other person that you're going to play Yu-Gi-Oh with has one also. My friend and I, we were using this one here, this other one, which is not two-player compatible with modern rules, but it does work if you ignore a few of the modern rules. Oh wait, not this one, sorry. No, not this one either. I've got several different versions of this thing. Is this one. Okay. No, it's not this one either. It's this one. It's house. I named it house because it looks like a house. Watch. See, doesn't it kind of look like a house? So the way this one works is it's got little clips that you slide cards into. And it's got several different pieces, right? This right here, this little hole, is a slot that you also slide cards into. And it has 5 pieces so that you can have 5 card zones. And it's only coincidentally almost compatible, or almost two-player capable, because I insisted on it having symmetry. And so when my friend and I got bored one day, we wanted to play Yu-Gi-Oh! And we used that because we were standing in a line. We were waiting. We were standing in line, and we got bored, and we played Yu-Gi-Oh! Using that. And we realized it would be really cool to have an actual two-player duel disc, right? I call them Duel Blades, actually, because if you notice, they are not shaped like discs. And this is a design I've been working on that is kind of okay, but not gonna work because of how these little segments fit together, how these pieces fit together. They get misaligned far too easily. So I'm gonna make a new file and copy what works from this design, because I've been testing this for a while. And I'm gonna copy what works from this design, and I'm gonna redo what doesn't work in it. So I'm going to start off in this one, not in that plane. I'm going to start off by just finding my sketch and copy pasting it into the new folder. The sketch for this, right? And I'll explain how it works when I'm done with it. Let me see what got highlighted. This got highlighted. This is coming off of... No. This. Yeah. So this sketch here is what I'm going to copy paste. And I'm going to make all the bodies invisible so I don't accidentally copy one of the bodies. And I'm going to extrude all of it by about 15 millimeters. Alright, so I will explain how this works now. I'm going to make a sketch in this plane to explain how this works. So, in Yugioh, you have 5 cards, or 5 monster zones, and 5 spell traps zones for each player, right? And this is how it used to work before the modern rule set. In the modern rule set, there are these 2 new zones called extra monster zones that can be used by both players not simultaneous. It can be used by both players and they're shared. So one player can put a monster in this extra monster zone, and then that extra monster zone is used up, right? Or being used, so the other player can't use it, but they could still use this. And you only get to use one extra monster zone at a time, unless you do a bunch of crazy shenanigans with a special type of monster, but that's irrelevant to how this works. What matters is that for a 2-player Duel Blade, or Duel Disk, whatever you want to call it, I want to call it a Duel Blade, you need to have 10 zones, right? You need to have 5 monster zones for each player, and 5 spell trap zones for each player, and at least 2 zones for each for the both players to share. And there also must be, I forgot about this briefly, each player gets, actually usually it's here, each player gets what's called a field spell, right? And then there's also going to be the deck, the extra deck, that each player gets, right? And then the graveyard, and then the banish zone. Each player, right, is going to have their 10 play zones. They need their deck and extra deck. They need the graveyard and banish zone. and they need a slot for their field spells, and then they need shared slots for the extra monster zones. Now, the deck, graveyard, banish zone, and extra deck will not be handled by this design because they are not in play for... Those cards are not in play. And this design is only going to handle cards that are in play. So all I need to do is have slots that allow this and the field spells. So, what this... Oh. Okay, well in that case, let me just keep going forward till I can't go anymore. So, what this does is this has 1, 2 slots on either side that can be... that has 2 slots, right, that are independent of the other side, and it also has these 2 slots which, because of their size and shape, if someone were to put a card in this slot, then this slot could not be used. So what we have is a spell trap zone and a monster zone for each player, and we have what could be used as an extra monster zone for both players. And if there were 5 of those, you would have, if you had 5 of these modules, you would have everything you need for the in-play cards, including the field spell, because you could just use these top 2 slots for because if you have 5 of these, right? Let me change this. If you have 5 of these, they would have to be pretty far out. You would have, each player gets 5 spells, 5 monsters, and then these 2 here would be used for extra monsters, and these could also be used for the field spell, and then we've got this middle one with its top slots being useless. And I'm going with this design for several reasons. It cannot be a simple whole, because there is a mechanic called Exe summoning, which has multiple cards stacked on each other, which means that to hold the cards, the monster and extra monster slots have to be capable of holding multiple cards. The spell trap slots don't have to be capable of holding extra cards, but a plain hole that is tight enough to hold a card is very difficult to use. So that's also shaped the same way as these are for convenience sake. So that's where this comes from. And now the hard part of the design is going to be how I get 5 of them to interlock in such a way that they are right next to each other, but they can expand. So if I modify this from extent to spacing and I make the distance 15, this is how it will be when the Duel Blade is closed. And if I make the distance about 50, which is the bare minimum, this is how it'll be when it's open. I could also make it 80, I believe. And this is the maximum size it would have to be if I wanted it to be the maximum size. So it has to go from this to this, from this to this, and it can't fall apart, and it has to fit over a person's arm. So what I did on this one was I used I used this mechanism where if you look carefully, you've got this segment and this segment. Hang on, I should highlight the whole body. You've got this segment here interlocking with the segment directly beneath it via these little L-shaped pieces. And the reason I did that instead of just tubes is because tubes would make it bigger. Because remember, this has to fit on somebody's arm and not be cumbersome to wear. Because a problem that the toys have, that the official toys have, is that they're really annoying to wear. Because they get in the way. So this has to be not cumbersome to wear. And I know for a fact that this one, the one that I call House, is not cumbersome to wear. Because I have worn it out and about before, and it never gets in the way. So if I can keep it within the size of this one, then it should work just fine. Now the way that they interlock in this one is very similar to the way they interlock in this one, but I wanted it to be even smaller in this one because with this one there's only these two slots, or clip slots, and the rest of the slots are these holes, and that's not fun to use. So in this one I designed the better way of the easier to use thing, but this piece got way bigger than the equivalent on this design, and so I needed to make it small. So I needed to make this part small. So that's what I'm gonna do in this design, my new design. In this design. So what I'm gonna do is experiment around with different ways of having things interlock. There are minimum sizes that things need to be. The minimum thickness of these has to be 1.6, or else it just will crumble because the material just has to be that. I can't think of a minimum size for the length of this. I'd say that a maximum size would be about from here to here. So I'm just gonna play around with how these things interlock. 2, 3, 4, 5. They're all going to be as small as they can get, obviously, because I want things to be small. For tolerance, they have to be 0.25 apart, because they're going to be sliding against each other, and with my 3D printer and the material accuracy, that gives a good smooth motion and is also somewhat tight, which I want it to be tight enough that it won't fall apart, obviously. Another thing that I would like to improve in this design from the previously functional design is that I'd like it to lock into place when it's open and closed, because the other design merely used a rubber band to stay closed. Let's see. But I'm gonna see what happens. I'm gonna try and see what I can do. Hang on. I'm gonna rotate everything. Select any point as the axis. Okay, I don't know what that did. Oh, that deselected that. Okay. Oh, I flipped it. That's neat. Gonna move it all down. If you're wondering why I decided to orient it this way, it's because I have an idea for how to connect this piece to this piece, and this piece, and this piece, and this piece, and this piece. And it requires this orientation. So I'm going to constrain these to be collinear with each other. And by making these essentially, like, this is essentially making them into rails, right? That will get rid of the problem in my previous design that I had been working on. That's annoying when that happens. Where they did not like to be aligned. I really don't want to have... Fusion sucks at figuring out the freaking geometry of how things work. You have to, like, constrain the hell out of it. Anyways, so now this is gonna be degrees? Why is that? Okay, well, I don't know why this is being stupid. But for some reason, these rectangles don't want to agree with me, so I'm just going to have to make them again. Okay, well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pieces. Now I should be able to make this 1.6 and 1.6 and 1.6 and 1.6 and 1.6, and I'm gonna stop doing that because that's annoying. I'm going to make this 1.6, and then I'm gonna make everything equal. One, two, three, four, five. There. Now I'm going to dimension. Everything has to be 0.25 away from each other. I'll make everything super tall so that when it brings the pieces together, it doesn't bring pieces through each other, because Fusion sucks at figuring things out like that. I misclicked there. Do the same. Just realized I could have made a bunch of equal size construction lines that touch everything, but I've only got 2 more to go, so. It would have been more convenient to do the construction line thing, because I could have, if I wanted to change the numbers, I could have changed one number. So, okay, now I'm going to make everything collinear. Okay. And now that won't hold the things in place with each other quite right. So what I will do, because in order to hold everything in place with each other, I would have to have some way of, you know, stupid. I'd have to have something on top of that, and then I'd have to have something on top of this one that's touching this one. And that's why I have these L pieces. Okay. So 1.6 and set this equal to that. And then 0.25. And then 0.25. Now if I just copy this down, that'll work. But I'm gonna make and change this to be, it can be anything. I'll make it 3. Because that's 3. This has to be, I don't know, 4. Now if I take this and this and control copy paste it, I don't know why that didn't work, but okay, well, whatever. I'll just make everything equal to each other. This is equal to that. This is equal to that. This is equal to this one. This one is equal to this one. So now if I measure this, that's 3. And if I measure this, that's 1/4. All right. And then this is 4. And then what happened? Okay. Oh, I see. Okay. That's not what I did. Okay. If I bring this, oh. I should still make this 0.25 so I can move this closer. And if I make this 0.25, not 0.5, 0.25. Now what is this? Probably 3. Yeah, it's 3. I thought so. I'm going to go ahead and project these two geometries here from the thingy, because I'm gonna move things in far enough that none of them are past that midpoint there. Okay. I'll move this one in farther just to give these ones a little more room. And do the thing again. Let's see. This one's equal to this one. And 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 then that's 1/4 millimeter. And that's 1/4 mil. And that's 1/4 millimeter. 2, 3, and then one last time. This one is equal to that, and this one is equal to that, and this one is equal to that, and this one is equal to that. Move things over some, and then that's 1/4 millimeter, and that's 1/4 millimeter. And then I'm going to do one last thing and make this one collinear with that, and this one collinear with that. That sets these, and this is a construction. And now what happens if I... Okay, so only that moves. That's good. Now I'm going to mirror all of this across this line. All right. So now I've got essentially what I had before in terms of the height of this. That hasn't changed because these only come up to here and will only come up to here. What happened to this one? Okay, well, I missed that in the mirror. Okay. Okie dokie. So now I'm going to make this visible to make things easier to see. Okay. Gonna make that 2 millimeters instead of 1.6 because it needs a little more thickness. And then I'm going to make the sketch visible again. That sketch? No, this sketch. And now I'm gonna do these. The start will be an object, which will be this plane, and the distance will be about 15 times 5 plus a quarter times 4. Okay, now let me delete that and see what I got. Okay. That's it. That's what I needed. Now what I have to do, I've made this type of thing several times before, so I know what I gotta do to make it work. It's kind of weird the way it works, because I'll explain it. Okay, so these pieces have to slide in and out of each other, but they can't, you know, slide all the way out. So there needs to be a bar across all of these pieces to keep them from sliding past each other. So what I need to do in order to do that is not make a line, I make a rectangle. I make these rectangles that go all the way across. Two, three, four, 5. I will make sure that these are here. And then what I do is I extrude these profiles first by a little tiny bit. .1. That'll give them just enough that they won't be touching this, but not so much that in real life it's gonna be loose enough to move past where I want it to move. It doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter how thick this is. It can be as it's just so that I can put a piece. It's just so that the pieces won't fuse together in the program, because the program is stupid. And then I make the sketch visible again. And then I extrude these pieces. Gotta make sure I've got everything there. And I start on an object, and the object will be okay, the start will be an offset of 0.1 then, and the distance will be 10. Not 10. 2. And if I do everything correctly, I should end up with 6 bodies at the end of this. Okay, body 2 has just that. Body 3, body 4, body 5, body 6. Okay, I'm gonna rename these to segments, and I'm gonna number them according to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 going down. Because it's easier to keep track of if I have their actual names. Or if I no, don't save as mesh yet. Rename as segment 2. 3. Didn't know I could do that. Segment 4. And segment 5. There, that way it's easy to keep track of what's what. And I might as well rename this one to play zones. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to mirror all the bodies and select this plane, and I did it wrong. So this sketch here, these have to extend out to the middle. These all have to extend out to the middle. Actually, that one doesn't need to. Okay. And then this extrusion here, I select these as well. There. Now I can mirror them all. And select here. And if I click on join, that makes them okay. And they are about the same size as this. Now, because they are essentially rails, they shouldn't misalign the way they were misaligning before, because before these would rotate back and forth this way too much and they wouldn't be aligned. So now what I have to do is come up with a way for them to snap together, and that will be somewhat difficult, I think. So the idea I have would be, if I have segment 5 and segment 4, just those two, I get rid of segment 4 even. The idea I have would be this. I put a bump here about 4 tall or 4 wide. And then I put around that bump this can be any size. 1 feels about right. Okay, that's good. That wasn't collinear. Let's put a mid line through here. That's a construction line. Let's put that bump in the middle, just for neatness sake. Let's make these collinear. And what I have in mind is I extrude that up about 5 to any distance, and I extrude this out. And so what I would have is, go home, okay. There. And so what I would have is this thing that can flex up and down, right? That shape allows it to flex up and down. And on segment 4, right? Project segment 5 has this. And cut that away. All the way. So that it can flex up and down. This can flex down, slide out, and then in this previous sketch, if I were to rectangular pattern this by 2 parts and 50 and include this one in the sketch, now segment 5 would have this part that flexes downwards and then slides all the way to this hole and flexes back up, springs back up. Obviously, this size for it is way too freaking big. It should only be like 2. That's too big even. Let's make it 1.6. But that didn't do anything. Oh, that makes the okay, well, 1, 4, 2. Oh, I see what happened. I see what happened. Okay. Make this 1.6 and make sure 4 is not visible. Because if it's visible, it'll want to fuse together. It's stupid like that. That makes more sense. Now, I will have to change a few things because I need to make sure that there's room to put this mechanism on all the segments, and if you notice, each segment with a smaller number has less room than the next segment with a bigger number. So I need to make sure that they fit like that. And I cannot put them all stacked together, because if I stacked them directly on top of each other, then segment 4 would have... Wait a minute. Or can I? No, because there's not enough space to make a conical shape that can work like that with the tolerances that are available to me. So what I'll do is I will essentially just take this concept and I will fine-tune it. Let's see. This doesn't have to be quite so big. Or it can be bigger. Who knows? Let's make it 8. That's twice as big as 4. I like 4. 4 works in other things. If I make that about 10? What happens if I put this 50 down? What happened there? Oh, it only copied to the point. That is stupid. I wanted to copy the circle. Okay. The reason I have 50 is because the segments for the play zones are 15 millimeters wide, and I need 5 of them to spread out with a spacing of 65 millimeters between the centers of 2 segments, which means that the amount that they spread out will have a space, or the amount that they have to move in order to spread out like that will have a spacing of 65 minus 15, because they're already 15 separated from each other to begin with, so they only need another 50. And the reason why these big segments have to be bigger than that is because 15 times 5 is 65, and they have to fit. They have to be big enough that all 5 of them can fit on them. So this'll work. That feels good. What about this? If that was 10, that would move that up. I do not like that, because when that prints, there will be a hole underneath the thing. Segment 1 is up here. Let me project this. And delete it. And get rid of segment 4. I need to be able to move these over to move these over 5 times and not go past this. What if I started with segment 1 then? Yeah, I will go backwards by a lot and start over with segment 1. Okay, now I'm getting rid of this sketch, which means... Okay. So segment 1 and 2. Let's start a sketch here. Let's put a hole for segment 1 because it's on top of segment 2. Let's make it 4.5. And then let's put it half of 4.5 is 2.25. So that's the radius plus the distance I want from between the edge of the circle and the edge of the thing. Should be 1 at minimum. I have another idea. No, because that's the hole. If it's like that, well, let me see. Right, and then if I bring this down this way, 50, 2, okay. Get rid of segment 2, and I extrude this out. Cut it. Other way. Include this. Funny. Segment 2 will then have to have this. I will project this one. And then I will offset it by 1/4 millimeter inwards. Then we'll get rid of this segment. And I will put a rectangle around it. And I will make this side collinear with this. And I will dimension from here to here is 3.5, which means that this will also be 3.5. And then this will be 1. This will be 1. And this will be 1. And so if I take this and this and I make this with this, and this is 1/2 millimeter. I don't like that. That's about what it has to be, isn't it? That is not making sense to me. Why is it not cutting all the way through? Yeah. And then the smallest bit is 1.6. And I will fillet this. If I make segment 1, right? And the reason that these are what they are is because I insisted on this one being a particular, I insisted on the hole being a particular distance away. Okay. If I take that and I move it over bit, it should work. So, what I'm going to do now is I am going to change this to be pretty darn long. Because I imagine it'll put less strain on the plastic if it's a bigger piece that has to go at a smaller angle. So 1 and 2, get rid of 4 and 5, and get rid of 1, so that I have 2 and 3. So then if I take 1, what was the sketch for 1? It was this one, right? 3.25. Okay. So if I start a sketch on segment 2, where does segment 1 go away? Segment 2. I make a line. I project the whole of segment 2. I go four and a half, and that. And then I make that in this direction by 50. And I cut it out. I take segment 3. I make a sketch here. And I project this one and this one. I might as well make these collinear with each other. Get rid of segment 2. And I offset this by -1/4. And I bring back segment 2 to figure out what the dimensions are on segment 2. So it was from here, it was 3.25 again. Let me go back to that sketch. Three and a half, okay. So this one. Get rid of segment 2. 3.5. 3.5. Another rectangle. Bring back segment 2. Bring this up. Get rid of segment 2 again. And then make these things collinear. And then make these one apart from each other. That's stupid. Why didn't this one change? Don't know why. Segment 3, sketch 8, extrude out this by 1.6, by 1.6, not 16, what the hell? Not 6 either. Might as well fillet it here. Shut up, Walmart. Shut up, mail. Bring that back out. Extrude it away. And then, so now that'll fit into that, and then, which will fit into this. So now how did I move it from segment 2 to segment 3? I took the hole in segment 2 and I made it 3.5. I made its center 3.5 away from the other hole. Okay. So I don't need segment 4 yet. Except that, hang on. Yeah, they're not the same place together. So where's the... I'm not trying to rename the sketch yet. Let's go ahead and make them collinear with each other. Hopefully that won't screw everything up. Okay. Okay, cool. Cool. Okay. So now I make a sketch here, and I project this and this. Okay. Four and a half, and 3.5, and pattern that in this direction. 50, only 2, and then cut them out. And then bring up segment 4, and then extrude, no, don't extrude anything, make a sketch on segment 4, and then project this, and this. Is that a circle or a dot? And then project this one also, because it's just easier to align things, even though I don't really need to project it. But, okay. Now rectangle, oh, hang on. Things are starting to get into it. Things are starting to get into it. That's gonna get in the way, isn't it? Because okay, well then what I'll do is in the very first one for this one, what was that? That was this sketch. I'm going to make this four. Now everything's up by 4. Sketch 6, however, I'm going to have to make this 3.5. That's still in there. So, sketch 5. Gonna make that 5. Yes, just delete that one for now. Sketch 6. 3.5. Sketch 7. Sketch 8, which is based off of this one. Sketch 9. Let's make this particular this. Okay. So segment 1 and 2, segment 2 and 3, segment 3 and 4. Segment 4 and 5. Okay. So for segment 4, I was making okay. Gotta make sure it's the right plane. Okay. Project geometry. Just the whole thing. Okay. Invisimify this. Offset this by -0.25. Make a rectangle. I'm gonna go ahead and make all these collinear. here to here was going to be 3.5, I believe. Oh, goodness. Hang on. That doesn't make sense because it worked on segment. Three and then 2. Right. And then 4. Oh! 4 doesn't get that. All this treatment. It only gets this. No, it doesn't. Hang on. Oh. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I'm stupid. Okay, rectangle. Wrong rectangle. That is stupid. I put the frickin'... Okay. This goes down to here. Okay. And then this is 1. This is 1. And that's 1. And this goes all the way over to here. You are an idiot, you stupid program. Oh, did something... Stupid program. I don't know where that came from, but... Now extrude this by 1.6. And then make the sketch visible again and extrude that all away by, that'll work. -2 will work. And give it a quick fillet because I don't want things chipping. Why does this stupid program take so long to respond? No, I don't want 111 millimeters. There, geez. All right. So 4 and 3, and 3 and 2, and 2 and 1. So now I just need to finish up 4 and 5. So start a sketch here. Project all of that. Make a circle. Not there. Put it on that point there because I want things to snap nicely. I don't want things to not snap. It was 3.5, right? Yeah, it was 3.5. No, it was 3.25. Invisible 5. Cut out the holes. Let me check the other sketches. Make sure they're the right distance apart. Actually, let's make them 3.5. Starting at sketch 5. That was 3.25. Then sketch 7. Yes, yes, warning, warning, warning. Then sketch 9. Then sketch 11. Wait. Oh no. Okay, what's the warning with this sketch here? Oh, I see. It can't be. Oh. Okay, well then. I'm just gonna Control Z everything. Until I get rid of the warning again, because it doesn't really matter anyways. Alright. What segment is this? Segment 4, so segment 4, and then segment 5. Project all of that. Segment 5 goes away. Shrink this in by 1/4. And then this is 3.5. This has to be 3.5. Yeah. No, it doesn't. And then where's the sketch? Okay, whatever. Okay. That is construction. And so is that. And that. And that. And that. What did I just do? I hate when things snap to places. Yeah, okay. Those I wanted to snap. One. 1. 1. 1.6. Okie dokie. I don't know why things started lining up differently. I think I put some things as 3.5 that should have been 3.25, but it'll work. Okay, so segment 5 and segment 4. 4 and 3. 3 and 2. 2 and 1. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and test out... Well, first I'm going to mirror everything. No. Okay, so I'm going to export segments 1 and 2 to test out how the little snapping together mechanism works. I might need to test out multiple, or I might need to test out 3 as well. But what's going on is I intend to pull all of them out. I intend to pull 4, 3, 2, and 1 out of 5, then 3, 2, and 1 out of 4, 2 and 1 out of 3, and then 1 out of 2. So that should work. And if that doesn't work, well, I'll just test it. To save a little bit of material, I'm going to go ahead and mirror features across... crap. Okay, that's not going to work. I need to make sure that there's a mirror plane that actually fits these. That's in actually the center. And while the origin could probably serve as that, yeah, okay, it works. I just need to make sure for sure that I'm actually mirroring things across the true center of the thing. Mirror features. This feature across this plane. And that'll save me time. That'll save me slight bits of material when I print this out to test it. And I will be back to see if it works, and if it works, I will continue on in this path.